God gives to us. And every time I've gone to the cemetery, I think these words are still truer and truer each time I go, in the sure and certain hope of the resurrection. I know I have been away, so I know that I've got to bring you up a recap since it's been a few weeks. You might have forgotten what I was talking about. Was talking about the book of Ruth, and you remember the story, so I'll just recap it really quickly. They had a dust bowl experience, disastrous time, and so Elimelech and his family, Naomi and the two sons, they went off to Moab with the hope. Now, if you've ever been in Moab, one of the places that is there is in the middle of the desert. The Nemanite people there were really good at taking the little bit of rain that they did, and they created Petra with all of its beauty, wonder, out of practically no water by learning how to control it. But while he was there in Moab, Elimelech dies. Now, somehow, some way, the boys find some nice girls in the middle of Moab. And Moab wasn't considered the place where you would go and find wives. If you're good Seventh-day Adventists, you should find another Seventh-day Adventist, right?
Amen.
Hint. That's right, Sergio. We're praying for a good woman. We're praying for a good man. So that all of you who are single, you'll find a good person who loves the Lord. That's the most important.
Amen.
All right. So they find some good wives, and unfortunately, we can tell by their names they were probably a little sickly too, and both of her sons died. So here's Naomi, no longer has a husband. You needed a husband in order to survive in this world at that time. She has no sons now either in order to take the place of her husband. And so here are these three widows, and the only thing that Naomi can think to do is to go back where home is. Maybe someone will take pity on her. But as she's traveling along, she's beginning to realize that she is worried about taking care of her two daughter-in-laws. And so she says to him, I need you to go back. Go to your family. They'll take care of you. But one decides that she's not going to leave, and the other goes home. You know, really, the book of Ruth is about Naomi. But it's called Ruth because Ruth is tied to Naomi. And in a lot of ways, what happens here is about how Naomi is leading and guiding her daughter-in-law. Do you know what it's like? I know many of you do, to leave your family and to come to some place like Jacksonville, North Carolina. We've gone through what? 8 weeks plus of no rain, and all of a sudden we got all the rain in a matter of 3 days that we should have had all along. It's been hot, it's been steamy. I know that some of you who are stationed here call this place Camp Swampy.
Amen.
Swamp Lejeune.
Swamp Lejeune.
Amen.
Okay. And that comes with all its good points and its bad points. All right, we'll just leave it right there. And so when Naomi comes back, she sends her daughter-in-law out because she remembers that God has made a rule that when someone was in need, they could go out into the fields and they could glean from what was in the fields. And she just happens, and I don't believe in happenstance because I believe God leads and guides in ways that we don't even understand. She ends up in the field of one of their kinsman's redeemer. This law was set up so that someone of the family could come in and help them in the time of need, that someone could make up for the problems that were going on. Folks, we all need a kinsman redeemer. Amen. There is no one in this world that makes it on their own. Did you hear what I said? She ends up in Boaz's field, and Boaz treats her with kindness. He even makes sure that the reapers are throwing out extra grains. It allows her to go right there amongst those who are tying up the sheaves in order to get the food. And all during the springtime, the Lord is taking care of her. And we have finally come to the point where Naomi is going to get to work. Because you see, Naomi is watching about what is going on. Ruth chapter 3, verses 1 and 3. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek you security?" For you, some of your Bibles it will say rest. In the New King James it says security. That it may be well with you. Not Boaz, whose young woman you were with. Is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight. This lady knew what she was doing. It was towards the end of the harvest. He was winnowing I'll show you the picture of winnowing in just a little bit here. Therefore, wash yourself. Anoint yourself. You all ladies know what anointing yourself is. You got to put on a little perfume, right? I like perfume. It smells kind of nice, right? Wash yourself, anoint yourself, put on the best garment, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the men until he has finished eating and drinking. Naomi understood what was going on. I know that we live in a day and age where we believe that we should go out and find our own mates and find our own way, that we should leave our moms and dads out of it. But there are sometimes that mom and dads know a little bit about love.
Amen.
My wife and I, while I have not been here, my wife and I, we've celebrated our 39th anniversary. We know a little bit about love.
Amen.
Just a little bit. We're still learning, though. Naomi was setting it up for her daughter-in-law so that she would have a place. You see, it's always been God's plan from the beginning that there should be a family.
Amen.
That there should be man and woman that is out there, and that they should get together. That's how God set it up right from the beginning. I know we live in a world where the world is teaching the fluidity of sexuality, that you go back and forth between man and woman, and I'm telling you that's not how God created you. God created male and female.
Amen.
God created it so that there would be a desire. You see, the reason why I had the Proverbs scripture written is that all of us men need a good woman in order to try and straighten us out a little bit. Men are good in a lot of areas. A lot of times, though, we need our wives in order to help us, in order to be people who can relate to the world. Because a lot of times, as human beings, because of sin, we can be pretty selfish. We think it is all about us, and then all of a sudden, a woman comes into your life and messes everything up and makes it clear to you it's not all about you.
Only husbands.
And so we struggle for the rest of our lives learning together, and hopefully we bring God into the middle of it. So it's not even about just the two of us. It's about two human beings who are working to save one another, to be at the feet of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
I hope I'm stating what God's plan was from the beginning in as clear a way as possible. And then Naomi knew that Ruth needed this type of relationship. I know that it's hard to be married in this world today.
That's right. Amen.
But I'm going to tell you that in the long run, if you will constantly seek God, you will find the greatest thing that you can find is that there is someone who cares for you.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
And isn't that what we are all looking for? Isn't that how God created us? And we need someone who loves us along the way and cares for us, even at times when we are not lovable enough to be loved.
Amen.
And Naomi wanted this for her daughter-in-law. So she followed the plan. She watched. This is a picture of what winnowing was like. After you cut the grain out, what has to be done is you have to get the seed, the grain, off of the stalk. So what they would do is they would lay all the stalks down onto a stone floor. And literally they would take oxen, and if they were rich, like Boaz was, he had a skiff that he was standing behind, and literally the oxen would drag that over all of the grain so that it would separate the seeds from the stalk. Then they would take all the stalk and make it into straw so that it could be eaten by used in bricks, so it could be eaten by the animals. And they would gather up all of the seed that was left on the stone floor. They would then take a sieve, they would toss it up into the air again in order to get out all the stones and the rocks and everything that might be there to leave the good seed. And then beside that spot where they went up, they would put a pile of the seeds. And those seeds would be then taken out at the end of harvest, and they would be put into a dry place so that they could be used later in order to make, or be shared with, or to be sold in order to make bread someplace else. Now, it became very important as time went on, especially towards the end, that the master would actually be the one sleeping out there with all of that grain, because that was what? That was his wealth. And Naomi knew that towards the end, she knew where Boaz would be sleeping. And so Ruth went out there. And it says in verse 4, as Naomi said, and then it shall be that when he lies down, that you shall notice the place where he lies. And then she told him to uncover his feet and lay at his feet. Okay? Now I know that we have different ways that we do things in falling in love with one another. I'm going to tell you something right now. True love is not always on an erotic high. True love is not always being Twitter-pated like on Bambi. True love is finding the best of the person that you are with and making them better by your presence with them. We've forgotten that in this world today, and Hollywood emphasizes the wrong type of love. Hollywood accentuates love that is selfish. In Ruth, the 3rd chapter and the 7th verse, it says that Boaz ate and drank and he was very happy. Now, we often will look at this from a selfish point of view, but in actuality, when it says that he was very merry, the implication in the Hebrew is that he was happy about how God had blessed him. Frank, I want to remind you, even though you're going through the trouble, God has blessed you so that you will be able to go through this hard time. Let your heart still be merry because God has been good. Amen. You still have a grandbaby to live for. Amen. God has been good. Amen. And so Boaz was actually, the idea here in the word that he was happy in what God had done in his life. And let's face it, if you can find that happiness, what's going to happen when you lay down? You're going to go right to sleep. Because when your heart is happy in the Lord, let's face it, the only times we can't sleep is when we are what? We are worried about the things of this earth. You all know what I'm talking about. How many of you have lost sleep because you're worried about things? Or you're just thinking about things and your mind seems to whir and whir, and you turn back and forth. Folks, we need to be happy in what the Lord has done. Hasn't the Lord been good to us? Amen. In a few moments, you're going to leave from here, and you're going to go home, and you're going to see some of the goodness that God has been good to you with. It's going to be on the table there. And you're going to all be taking that goodness, and you're going to be putting it into your mouth. And you're going to enjoy it, right? Amen. Be sure to give thanks over it because God has been good to you. Your heart will be merry as you eat that good food. Amen. Amen? Amen. I'm looking forward to haystacks. It's all gathered at home. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to praise the Lord for haystacks when I get home.
Leftovers.
You can find it in Wikipedia. There's the Adventist version of haystacks in there. There's also 2 other church bodies that have haystacks. Unfortunately, one of them adds pork to it, but we won't talk about that church. Amen. Amen. So, what happened is she was watching, and he was very merry and happy, and it says that about midnight, she saw that he was fast asleep. So she slips in, and she uncovers his feet, because he's fully clothed while he's sleeping out there with this ring, and he's got probably a large jacket, overcoat, or something like that, and that is covering him. And so she slips by his feet and pulls that coat over her. Now you can imagine what's going to happen in the middle of the night when he turns over and he finds that his feet are encumbered by someone looking at his feet. It says that he was startled. And so he says to her, he says, "So, why are you here?" Now her response is what? "I am Ruth, your maidservant. Under your wings, for you are a close relative. Have you ever been brought under someone's wing? You know what that means, don't you? When you're brought under someone's wing, they're coming alongside you in order to do what? My wife talked about our kids learning how to drive. I was the one who did most of the driving with them. I got the dangerous job. My wife didn't do most of the driving because,
Because I couldn't take it. Let's be honest.
now you know how I got so many white ears. And somehow the Lord got my kids through it. I know He got me through it. I survived.
So did we.
Yes, well, I could tell stories from when I was learning how to drive, but I'll stay away from that. She's asking for Him to put His protective arm over her. She's asking Him to marry her, folks. Now, I know that these aren't the words we use today. You want to know how I asked my wife? We were in the middle of a fight and I just blurted out, "So you don't want to live the rest of your life with me?" And she turned to me and she said, "You betcha." I was going, "Oh dear, what did I just do?" And we've had a good relationship ever since. In his response to her, and this is very telling, he said, "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning." Going day by day to the field, he was being kind to her, and she showed the kindness by keeping going to the field with all of his workers there. But now she's coming to him, and look, folks, I think Naomi knew that there was something there. Don't you?
Amen.
Sometimes we all have to be reminded that there's something there.
Amen.
Something that draws us to the person that we love. Sometimes we have to be reminded that God has brought something to make us better along the way. Amen?
Amen.
He tells her to stay there at his feet for the rest of the night. That he is willing to be her kinsman redeemer. You know, God had a reason for doing this. What happens to all of us in this sinful world? Don't we need help?
Amen.
Don't we need someone who can take us out of the problems that we are facing? Someone who can redeem us for what is going on? I have found as much as I try to be good, I cannot be good enough for the Lord. I'm miserable without the forgiveness that the Lord gives each and every day.
Amen.
I asked Him at the beginning of the day for help to live the way that Jesus would live, and I'm so shameful how quickly I forget those words, and I do not act like Jesus Christ. Does anyone else know what I'm talking about?
Amen.
I need a kinsman redeemer who can put his wing over me, and even though I have sinned and fallen short, he can say, "It is my blood that covers you." You see, in a lot of ways, the reason why God put this in there is to teach us how Jesus is treating us. that he loves us so much that in spite of the way that we are, he is ready to put his wing over us in order to take us through this world. And I know that this world is still tough and rough.
Amen.
And some people like to blame, well, all this bad stuff has happened because of God. Well, you know what? It hasn't been all that bad stuff that has just happened because of God. That has happened because we have a devil who has led us to believe
Amen.
that bad comes from God.
That's right.
Bad never comes from God. God allows bad to come to us sometimes to remind us who we need to rely on. That the only hope that we have is in Jesus Christ. And you're absolutely right, Frank. We are all heading towards death. I don't like to admit it, but I am heading there. And some of you young people are going to have to take my place. Not yet. I still have a little life in me yet. You young people are the hope for the church, not only just now, but for the future. I don't want you to ever forget that there is a God who loves you so much that he has done the ultimate sacrifice in order to present you as blameless to his Father, because you can't be blameless on your own. Every one of us here is liars. Every one of us are cheats. Every one of us, if it was left to us, we'd murder someone else. Come on, admit that you've never thought about murdering someone.
And then you'll be a liar.
Then you'll be a liar. Back to the first place where it started with. We need a kinsman redeemer who can solve our problems, who can take the place, who can pay the price for us in order to live at rest in this world.
Amen.
You see, that's what it's talking about in Hebrews, where it says, and the people were in the wilderness, and they did not enter into his rest.
Yeah.
You want to know why they didn't enter into his rest? Because all them people says, okay, Lord, all this we shall do. How many of you good Adventists said that along the way? How long did that last? Folks, the only hope that you have is in a kinsman redeemer, Jesus Christ, who paid the price so that you don't have to be afraid of what the future is going to be. You see, I'm not afraid to die.
Amen.
I'm not afraid to die.
Amen.
I know. And every funeral I've ever gone to reminds me. And the sure and certain hope of the resurrection. I know that some of you are going through pains and troubles. I want to remind you, with all the pains and troubles that you're going through, if you rely on Jesus Christ, you're going to get to heaven, and all that pain and trouble is going to be worth what?
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Keep your hope in Jesus, because I know what it says in Revelation. He says he'll take away
Bubba gum.
all. This is an absolute, folks. All pain, all suffering, and all tears. I know I like to kid about the fact I'm left-handed and therefore I'm in my right mind. But I'm going to be honest with you, I will only truly be in my right mind when I'm sitting at the feet of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And until then, I'm like you, I'm suffering, and I need a Savior.
Amen.
You begin, you see the book of Ruth is not just here, just telling you just a love story. It is telling you about what Jesus wants to do for you. Every story, everything is pointing towards Jesus Christ if you'll just look for it. The light of dawn is just beginning. It's still dark out. And he says, bring your shawl that is on you and hold it. And so she holds it out. And in a payment showing about what he wants to do for her, he pours out grain into her shawl. The Bible specifically says that it is 6 ephahs. Actually, the ephahs there is in italics, means that it isn't there in the regular. But it is giving you the idea that he is putting a lot of grain into her shawl. He's giving of his wealth, saying that he will take care of Ruth. And so there's no scandal. She heads off before anyone can recognize who she is. Because there was no scandal that was happening, folks. This was a good man and a good woman. All right? Is that clear? And so she goes home, but she's still a little bit worried about what's going on. And I love what Naomi says. She says, sit still, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out. For the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter this day. How many of us like sitting still and waiting? Sit still and wait. Folks, I believe that we are in the last days.
Amen.
I'm asking you to sit still a little longer and wait. I know what our God is going to do. He has made the promise. From the moment that he left, the angels were saying to the disciples, why stand you here looking up into heaven? The same Jesus that you see going will come again in like manner.
Amen.
And folks, I believe that that is what is going to happen. I believe that our kinsman redeemer is going to take care of us. I'm looking forward to. We need to learn to be like a Naomi and Ruth and to sit and to wait and to know that God is going to take care of us. Amen. All this story is here to remind us how loving a God that we have. I am looking forward to that day, and I want to see the Lord come with every part of my being. I stand before you, and I know that I am a sinful human being. I am not worth anything except for what Jesus Christ has done for me. Amen. He has made me worthwhile. He has made me worthwhile. And folks, he makes you worthwhile. All he asks is that you would give the most precious thing that you have, that you would give your heart to him. Amen. Folks, I ask you today, are you willing again to say that you want to belong to Jesus Christ? Are you willing to give it all? Are you looking forward to Jesus Christ come again to fulfill everything? And it is your desire to do that. Will you stand with me and say, Lord, I want you into my heart. Lord, I accept you. Put your wing around me. Protect me, dear Father. Take care of me. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer.